Welcome to the She Self Cares podcast. I'm your host, BC, aka BC Bright. And this is the show where we dive deep into the world of self care, personal growth, and empowerment. Each week, we will explore the practices, stories, and strategies that help women like you prioritize their well being and live life to the fullness body, mind, and soul. If you're ready to embark and embrace your power, transform your life, and thrive in every area, then you are at the right place. Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another series of our She Self Care Collective podcast. I am always so excited to have a special guest on. And like I said, this podcast is really a space for women to come together. We always talk about the triple E to encourage, educate, and equip women to just prioritize themselves, learn from one another, and really thrive. And today, I'm very excited to have a special guest today, Rain Tauber, with us today. And I'm going to quickly read a short bio before we get started, which is amazing. So Rain is an elite international makeup artist currently based in South Africa with more than 20 years of professional experience. A career journey is a story about being at the right place at the right time. She said, quote, "My mom was in the film fashion industry, and I used to assist there on set when I was a teenager. Through assisting a mom, she met and connected with a few photographers. So one day, a makeup artist called in sick, and a photographer called Rain to fill in as he was desperate. From then, she knew that this was exactly what she wanted to do. So after 6 years of freelancing, Rain joined Mark, and shortly after that, joined the training team responsible for the development of the retail team. Over the next 7 years, Rain earned a skill at artistry as well as understanding the industry, the business of beauty, and the importance of trend as the global senior artist for Mark. A few years later, and she's still creating makeup for Paris. She's now creating makeup for Paris, London, Milan Fashion Weeks, and has headed up the local Fashion Week makeup team for the past 15 years. She has worked on some of the most celebrated runway shows, such as John Galliano and Lanvin, on some of the most renowned faces, such as Kia Gerber and Gigi Hadid. Rain has also had the honor for working for international publications such as ID and Elegant Magazine, as well as the local Eats, the Glamour, Cosmo, Hell, and Marie Claire. So today, some of the incredible brands Rain has worked with over the years, including GHD, Bo and Luca, and much more. And I'm so excited for her to talk to us about this amazing thing that she's been doing for the past 20 years, especially when you said it, she actually said it was almost like being at the right place at the right time. This is incredible. So welcome, Rain, to the She Self Care Podcast Collective. Thank you for coming on today with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and chat with you.
Absolutely. So I know we kind of read your short bio quickly, which we'll highlight, but can you tell us a little bit about that amazing experience for you, not just, just helping out your mom randomly and all of a sudden this career just came from nowhere? Was it something you've always been passionate about or just never knew about it? Or is just something that just, hey, I can do it. I'm just going to try.
I think, it's kind of a mixture. So my mother being in the industry, it was something that I grew up surrounded by. So I think I started helping her on shoots probably when I was about 13 or 14 years old. And it was just such an exciting environment to be in. Sometimes it's early mornings, it's late nights, but there's a general feeling of excitement on a film set or at a fashion show, and I really do get kind of a rush from those environments. So I think I started enjoying that from a young age, and then I wanted to go to UCT and I wanted to study and do all of those like responsible things that set you up nicely for later in case your creative, career doesn't work out.
Traditional way, the traditional way.
Right. And I think, my parents are both creatives, and to some degree, they struggled when they were younger. The world was a very different place, 40 years ago. Like, being a creative wasn't really an acceptable career path, and it wasn't also the easiest career path or um, a very sustainable career path. And I think things have changed a lot with regards to that. But they didn't want me to struggle like they had struggled in some ways, and so university was the thing. But uh, when that makeup artist wasn't there, and I did that first shoot, and like I'd played around with makeup for years. It's always been something I liked. When I was a small child, there's a photo of me in my mom's like pink satin high heels. My mom's always been a fashionista, and I used to get stuck in her makeup. And I think that, that bug had bitten me very young. And so when there was an opportunity for me to make that my job, make my hobby my job, I grabbed it.
That's amazing. Like, hobby your job. Like, this are very always kind of hard to find a lot of times. So I think that's actually amazing that, we're able to find something, a career in something that you actually love. So that's
Yeah.
beautiful. So today we're talking about makeup, skincare, and beauty. So let's start with the skincare evolution. First of all, why skincare? Let's talk about that. Why should we care? Why skincare?
So I think I care about skincare because I have a very sensitive skin, and I have also, again, I have a mother who's very passionate about looking after our skin from a very young age. It was sunscreen all the time. So I just, fell into being passionate about that from that point of view. And then I also discovered, as I got into makeup, that it really does alter the way that you're able to create makeup looks by making sure that the skin is well cared for. And the models that have, they go through fashion month and it's makeup on off a million times throughout that time, and their skin takes a beating. But the models whose skin was like well looked after handled it a lot easier. So I if for no other reason than having your skincare as part of your self-care routine, I think it's important to look after our bodies, in the way that we choose what we put into our bodies from a food and nourishment point of view, the way that we care for our bodies from a stress management and relaxation point of view. All of those things, I feel like your skin is your largest organ in your body. So we should be looking after it just like everything else.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that you said that, in the sense that, when we think about skincare, oftentimes you always just think about makeup and just, but you just mentioned how nutrition is part of it. Your mental is part of it. Your self-care is part of it. So it goes beyond just what we put on our face. It sounds like it's more something deeper, and even a way of connecting with ourselves, it sounds like, right?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
love that. I love that. So let's get into it. As someone with over 20 years of experience, especially in this industry, how has your skincare changed over the years, especially as you get older? Because most of our audience are like, women of a certain age. I'm a woman of a certain age, And so how have you approached this skincare change over the years?
So I'm 39, almost 40 as well. So absolutely, I feel like, when we were, I think, let me start at the very beginning. I have always been a sunscreen girl because I'm very pale, so I burn easily. So the universe forced me to be a sunscreen girl. But I think that, adopting that as a routine from a very young age, there was always something that I was doing. And then I think that being privileged to work for a brand like MAC, which is also part of the Estee Lauder group of companies, and they have a lot of incredible skincare brands. I think I was just also exposed. So I started working for MAC when I was 22, and I just was exposed to incredible skincare, I think. And I just really started to develop a keen interest in, what skincare can do for us, and what looking after my skin specifically looks like, because I don't think it is a one size fits all scenario at all. But I do feel that obviously from the age of 25, the elasticity in our skins and our cell renewal starts to slow down. And so our bodies need a little bit more care as we age in general. We find that it's harder to, lose that little bit of extra weight as we get older. And I think it's the same with your skin. Yeah, your skin is the same. It takes longer for it to bounce back from the hardships it might experience. So those can be anything from a little bit of extra sun exposure. Maybe you go for a hike on the weekend, and although you're sunscreened and you're in a hat, you're still in the sun, so there is a little bit of damage happening there. But if your skin is cared for as well as you can care for it, through the other times, I feel that you bounce back from the times you need your skin to do a little bit extra for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so when we get older, especially now that you say you're 39, you're approaching, that's what I call the women of certain age, when things are just like going amazingly. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful space to be. But of course, we know, like you talk about elasticity changes. Sometimes you get drier. Sometimes, start having irritation. Even some people start having adult acne at this age as well, right? And things can either get better, or even for some people things get better, but a lot of people things kind of go a little bit off, right? So over the years, what are something, I love that you mentioned sunscreen, but what is anything specific that we need to kind of be aware of as we talk about aging and skincare? As the skincare routine, does it change, or does it evolve over as we age? Does it evolve, or does it evolves as we age?
Absolutely. So especially if anti-aging or aging, I don't like the word anti-aging, but in skincare terms they use that a lot. So if that is a concern for you, there's certainly so many different kind of products or ingredients rather, that you may want to add to your skincare routine. So other than sunscreen, things that I am very I love skincare, so I am very comfortable to have a 11-step routine at night, but there are a few things that I would say are probably my essentials. And if somebody was wondering where to start at this age, I would suggest this. The first thing is double cleansing. So as we, are aging and things start to touch, like lashes to our eyebrows, that's my personal, I call them barcodes. I am now wearing waterproof mascara all the time. So waterproof mascara, I'm wearing sunscreen, I'm wearing foundation, I'm adding long wearing products to what I'm wearing. Removing that properly is really, really important. So I love to double cleanse. My first step is always a oil-based cleanser that you put onto a dry face, and that just melts and emulsifies absolutely everything off. And then I use a very gentle foaming cleanser to just make sure that there's no residue of any kind. I also am very passionate about vitamin C and retinol. So during the day, I use a vitamin C serum, and I then, vitamin C can really make your skin even more sensitive to sun. So wearing a sunscreen if you're using a vitamin C is incredibly important. Sorry, excuse my dogs. They might just bark for a little while because someone has just arrived. My husband's going for a golf round today.
No problem.
It's so hot. Where I don't know where are you based?
I'm in Cape Town, so it's
Oh,
hot
so
today.
you
I mean,
know it's so
yeah,
hot here
it's
today.
hot. Oh my God, yes. I have the fan right in my face right now.
Ooh, me too. And I'm also in the northern suburbs, so it's a little bit extra hot out
Oh
here today.
yeah,
But yes,
absolutely.
so what I was saying was vitamin C and always making sure that you put a sunscreen if you're using vitamin C. And then for the nighttime, I love to use a retinol serum. I think retinol is a game changer in terms of, really helping the skin or slow down the aging process on the skin or slow down visible signs of aging on the skin, which for me is important. I do like to maintain a as
Your face is glowing, by the way. It's like you have this glow on your face. Your
thank
face is glowing.
you. Thank you. I am obsessed with I love glowy skin. I think it's so beautiful. I've always loved glowy skin, and that's definitely a part of my like personal aesthetic as well. Um, yeah, so retinols definitely, and then I think another amazing ingredient that's been really talked about lately is the hyaluronic acid, which is such a nice ingredient to just like plump up the skin. And there's so many different, ways of using that, and uh, like so many different ingredients. It's important. Oh, so many different products that include it as an ingredient. It's important to understand not to overdo it because you can overdo a good thing as well. And then just a really beautiful, nourishing night cream or day cream for me. I really enjoy, like, I enjoy that feeling of juiciness to the skin. So I don't ever want my skin to feel like powdery or matte or
Mhm.
anything like that. I would much rather look oily than look dry personally, but
Mhm.
because I feel also that a like hydrated skin feels more like a healthy skin to me.
Absolutely. I'm not sure if it's an evolution, but I've noticed recently in the recent years that, a lot of people used to often like that matted face before, but now I feel like everybody's all about the hydration and the glowing and the oily and even after makeup, you can still see the skin glowing. And I feel like, oh, that's quite different. I feel like it's a change compared to what we used to over the past decade. I feel recently that things have completely evolved.
You know what I think has led that change has really been the collective shift towards like skincare awareness and focus. I recently chatted to a 13-year-old about her skincare routine, which I think is so cute. And it's so lovely. It's such a nice thing. Like previously, so when I was 13, 14, I was focused on like black eyeliner and something shiny on my eyelids, and like little girls seem to be more focused now on skincare. And while I do think that age appropriate skincare is important, you would not want a 13-year-old applying a retinol or anything like that. I do think that there's been a collective shift in terms of a focus on skincare from a consumer point of view. And I think that has been largely social media driven. And
Mhm.
so I think that a lot of brands have included a lot more technology and a lot more skin caring ingredients into foundations and so on. And I think one of the main kind of effects in terms of the look of a foundation when you're adding skincare ingredients to it is a more dewy and more natural kind of finish. So
Mhm.
in terms of trend, matte skin kind of it's cyclical. It's always going to go in and out of fashion. What I do find in terms of the reality of the kind of world, I work with a lot of I obviously work with a lot of models, but I also work with a lot of real women. I do weddings, I do like makeup for events, and I have a lot of clients that are repeat clients. And so I work with real women, and they are definitely more focused on a kind of more dewy, natural, healthy looking skin, except in the case where people have a naturally very oily skin, in which case making sure that their oil is controlled is more of a focus for them. But for the most part, I think that women want skin that looks real and healthy.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now let's talk about climate and location. I think usually when we talk about skincare or makeup, we often don't talk about that. But you've worked in different countries. You've done, the Paris. You've done, different countries, South Africa, and probably many other countries. And we know that environment and climate can actually affect our skin. I used to live in the US and I moved to South Africa a few years ago, and I noticed even the tone of my foundation has to change. Like things that I was using in the US changed a bit when I got here. Even I had to change some of my products, and
Yeah.
it was something that, I struggled with at first because I'm like, no, this is my foundation. I've always been da 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 with MAC, and this is my NW40, and that's it, But I noticed that the changes came after a while. So how do different season or climate change or location, temperature affect our skin? And what should we be doing differently in our skincare routine during these changes?
So that is such a great question. They absolutely affect my skin, and anyone's skin. So it's environmental factors are enormous. I mean, just think about if you've been in a different city for just for a week for a trip or something. I don't know, like I find some water from like the shower makes my
Yes,
skin
yes,
dry
yes.
in certain cities.
Yeah.
So crazy. It's like sometimes it's like an immediate change that you're going to feel in a different space if it's dramatically different from where you've been. But also, even in the same space. So you know how dramatically different our climate is in Cape Town from winter to summer. In summer we have a lot drier of a season. It's very, very hot. All of those things can affect skin. For example, pigmentation. Some people's pigmentation is affected by heat, so that can make your pigmentation look more pronounced when it's hot. But we also have a massive hole in the ozone layer around like this area, so our sun seems to be stronger, which would also explain why your SPF might need to be higher in certain regions, and why let me just be clear, I do not ever suggest wearing a less than 50 SPF. Just got to put that
Okay.
out there.
Okay. I was gonna ask that, but
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as the dermatologists that I have spoken to on the subject, who actually was invited to the most incredible, so as an extremely passionate sunscreen user, one of the brands that I've been working with for the longest time is Bioderma, and they had this incredible event where they had one of the leading dermatologists in the country talk about sunscreen. And she's so amazing. She just like really, really direct with what she says. And she basically said, if you're using anything less than an SPF 50, and if you're not applying often enough, which should be every 2 hours if you're outside, you're wasting your time. And I was
oh
just
wow.
like, say no more.
Okay.
So I think sometimes we can be really good in applying the first time, but not reapplying, which is something that I struggle with. And I've now got a spray sunscreen that can just go over everything. But yes, absolutely, your skincare does need to change based on the climate that you're in, based on, if you're traveling. For me, for example, like now, summer, my skin tends to be a little bit more oily. So I do have like a little bit more shine in the T-zone. I love it. I'm very, very happy with that, because my skin tends to be more dry, and dry skin can naturally look a little bit more dull. So in winter, when if I'm going to a very cold climate and it's winter, then and dry and cold, then you want to be adding in like richer creams that help protect the skin's lipid barrier from losing moisture. but you also want to make sure that you're supporting your body also your skin from the inside with your water intake and with making sure that you're getting enough of the good fats that are great for our skin, that kind of thing. So it's never going to just be an external support for your skin. It needs to be internal and external. And I think my biggest piece of advice would to just be to really listen to your skin. You're going to know very quickly if you're somewhere that is drying out your skin, or if your skin is naturally oily and it's very, very hot. You're going to notice an increase in the sebum production of your skin, and then you're going to have to address it concern by concern.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love that you mentioned sunscreen, because like I said, a lot of people, including me, we often put the sunscreen on the first time, but we just don't reapply. And one other thing, and I'm glad that you mentioned the spray. It's just messy. Like if I put on makeup and now I'm putting my extra sunscreen, it's just so messy. And then you're outside, you're like, I'm not going to do that. I need to look pretty. I don't. And so that was one of the question, but now I'm thinking, I'm like, duh, of course I should have thought about that. There should be a spray to use to reapply, which I think makes sense.
It's so much easier. There's such a amazing selection of aerosol sunscreens, like a good few of the brands that I use for set as well. I have models that might be like in the sun and so on. So I need to make sure that I'm protecting their skin. So there's quite a few brands that we use that are just like a great solution to that problem. Like spray sunscreen and reapplying.
Absolutely. And let me ask this real quick. So is it moisturizer first before sunscreen, or sunscreen before moisturizer? Or they can layer up?
So that's an interesting thing. You cannot layer SPF, just so you know. So for example, if your SPF has if your moisturizer has a SPF 15 in it and your foundation has a SPF 15 in it, you can't add those two together and have a 30. You still only have 15. Okay. Yeah. So even if you put 10 things on top of each other that have 15, you still only have 15. So it will only be the highest SPF that you will have. The other thing about SPF that I think is also really important to understand is the number, the SPF, what that kind of means. A lot of people, these are just questions I've gotten on my socials many times over, so I'm just going to answer them now as well. And that is the fact that the SPF stands for sun protection factor. And basically what that means is if it's a SPF 50, your skin is protected for 50 times the length of time it takes you to normally start burning in the sun, right? So for me, that's about 30 seconds. So even if I get a SPF 50, I'm only protected for 30 seconds times 50. So it's not very long at all for me.
Wow, okay.
For somebody else whose skin is more sun resistant, they might have a slightly longer time before they start to burn, and then an SPF 50 would provide them for a longer amount of protection. And then the other myth that about sunscreen, that dark skin doesn't burn. That is a myth I hear so much. So please, dark skin. So dark skin absolutely needs sunscreen as well, and being naturally melanated does not protect you from being sunburnt. Just had to clear that. I've heard that I've had a few people ask those questions, but yes. So back to kind of the main question at hand. I think that just the reapplication and making sure that you are using, in my suggestion is the highest SPF available to you, and just protecting what we have.
Absolutely. I love that. Thanks for that. I mean, I feel like I've had different explanation about sunscreen, but that actually resonates and makes sense to me in terms of the duration of SPF. Thank you for that. I think that will be very helpful.
I mean, certainly, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but if you're going to the beach or something like that and you're in the sun, there definitely comes a point where you can actually just spend the entire time reapplying. You can sit here and do this the entire time, but you're still going to burn because it's just gone past the point of where that can protect you. So that's like at some point you also do need to get out of the sun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. All right. So let's talk about inner beauty and self-care, because oftentimes, again, this is like a self-care platform. All these are connected because you can have all the makeup and all the whatever in the world, but let's talk about how important is inner beauty when it comes to skincare and makeup. And what practices do you follow to keep your inner self nurtured? And how does that reflect in your outer beauty?
Wow. Well, I think I think when you are a kind person,
I
when
love
you
that.
when you are a happy person, when you are a empathetic person, um, when you try and be considerate of others, when you spend your time uplifting others and looking out for other people, I think that honestly that shines out of your face, and you are always beautiful if you are those things. And and I think that if you're striving for beauty, then that's that's where you should start, striving for being beautiful on the inside, because you can't hide that.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. Because oftentimes, I mean, we've seen the most beautiful people and they can be as ugly as hell. Like you've seen people that are so beautiful and they look fit and all that, but they just wooze out certain things that you're like, you're just ugly. And it's not about the makeup and all that. It's more about that inner thing that you talk about, being kind and being empathetic to others and loving other people and really doing that inner work in order for you to ooze out that inner beauty and outer beauty as well. So I love that. So how do you practice? How do you kind of nurture your inner self for you as Rain? What are things that you do to nurture your inner self?
So I'm very passionate about like educating. So I love to like share knowledge with other women. I love to spend time with other women that I think sometimes women don't often sit and have talks that are like really deep and meaningful. And it's when that does happen, it's incredibly beautiful to be a part of. um and I also like to practice telling other women. I think it means so much sometimes when you are walking somewhere and a stranger will just be like, oh, you know you look so like, I love whatever, your hair is amazing, I love your outfit, or something like that. Those little comments and compliments that are maybe very, very superficial, but they really do help somebody, feel good. And I think that making other people feel good is it makes you feel good. So I guess it's completely
Absolutely.
selfish in the end, but it all kind of it all kind of ties in. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. And I think that's part of self-care. I often say to you that, self-care is not just about, things that we do. Self-care is actually deeper than that. It's something that is more of um self-care is everything. It's literally the way you treat other people. It's when you do the inner work, is when you are kind, is when you like you said, pay attention to other people and lift other people's mood up because of from your words or whatever the case may be. So doing all those things is almost like you're nurturing your inner selves, and then it comes out as this beauty. Because you also, as much as we talk about makeup, there's also people that don't wear makeup at all and they're beautiful, right? Because the
I'm
skin is popping.
Yes, absolutely. You don't need makeup to be beautiful at all. But I am so lucky that it's quite literally my job to make women feel beautiful, because I think that when you feel beautiful, you look beautiful. And, I think in the beginning of my career, there were times where I was like, this is a pursuit of a career that maybe doesn't have a lot of depth to it and a lot of like importance in the greater scheme of things. And I have witnessed people completely lose perspective in the fashion industry of what is important. I've witnessed paparazzi almost run over people to get a
Right.
photograph. So there are a lot of things that are, where that are treated as really, really important, that are, if you actually step back and have a look in terms of life, the world, the universe, whatever, have zero importance. And I do think at the very face value of things, that makeup is unimportant. What is, like, technically, it's just paint, it's just color, but it can be more important because it can affect our mood and how we feel, and it can give a woman her power. I recently read a story about a woman who was going through a really, really horrible court case where she was up on the stand against an abuser, and she put on a really like strong red lipstick every day. I see you've got a beautiful red lip on. And I think that sometimes as a woman, that small act of, you know, something that you're doing to make yourself feel powerful, to make you, look good, feel good. Those are tiny acts of defiance. And, like wearing red lipstick in the 40s through the World War II as an act of defiance, but also it can be a like symbolic armor for you to face whatever it is that you need to face. And sometimes that might just be going to the grocery store or whatever it is. And I think that you can give meaning to that, and that kind of you make that meaning for yourself in whatever that you do. And I'm really lucky to have so many of those moments with other women where I get to have an intimate moment doing their makeup, touching their faces, and have them leave my chair feeling good. That's my like main goal always. And to be able to do that for a career and get paid for it is pretty amazing.
Absolutely. I love that. And I actually love that you actually mentioned that, maybe in the base scheme of things, maybe makeup is not important, but if you actually think about it, it's also important. And I love the way you put it to me, because it sounds like, to me, I always talk about self-care. We'll have to have these tools in our toolbox to whatever a case may be. And makeup is one of the tools in our toolbox that we can use to enhance ourselves, to make ourselves feel good. Sometimes, sometimes you just don't feel right, but you put on your red lipstick and you're like, okay, all right, I can do this. I can do this. So it's like a tool in the toolbox to have. So it's not an essential. It's not like the all of your essence, but it's also just a tool that we can use. It's part of our tools that we can use and we can pull it out whenever we want to, and they can help boost whatever or however we choose to use it. It sounds like, and I love that.
Absolutely.
I love that. Absolutely. So now let's talk about choosing makeup and what works best for our skin type and age. I'm a woman of color. I know it's certain things that works for me, especially when we talk about sunscreen. I've tried 100, well, that's an exaggeration. I've tried a whole lot of sunscreen, and it took a long time for me, for example, to find a sunscreen that doesn't, leave that white streaks on my face and keep it moisturized. And it took a while. And even when I talk to some makeup artists, or even, going to, the salon and talking to people, some people just do not understand how it works for people of color sometimes, right? So let's talk about that. Like, how do we choose makeup that works best for our skin and also our age, as well?
So I think that's a very difficult question to answer because there are so many factors involved. And the biggest factor for me is obviously price point. There are, there are so many different brands at so many different price points. I am an extremely lucky and bratty makeup artist that plays around in a luxury beauty space. So I have my favorites for sure, but just because I'm obsessed with
Can I be your best friend in my head and pass things down to me?
But absolutely choosing a brand is so important. And not just for finding the right product for you. Absolutely, that's important. But I think that all, like, right now, it has never been more important to be voting with your dollar or your rand when you're choosing a brand. And choosing brands that are inclusive. I think it's beyond criminal for a brand to even be sold in South Africa that doesn't have a shade lineup that can work for every skin tone. We have an incredibly diverse range of skin tones in this country. I've worked on models that are quite literally the palest of the pale, and I've worked on incredible dark skin models and clients. And having a brand that doesn't have that shade diversity should tell you everything that you need to know about them. So even if they might have a tone for you, if you're seeing that the brand lacks diversity in general, I do think that that's maybe not something that you want to support. And I think with everything that's going on in the world at the moment, it's never been more important than now how we choose to purchase, and where we choose to vote with our money. So I definitely recommend big picturing it when it comes to choosing brands that you support. And then the next thing that I want to say is that I think that being able to test a foundation is incredibly important. So one of the main reasons that I don't buy products, skincare products complexion products from like drugstores is because it's very, very difficult. They don't often have testers. And as an artist, I need to feel and touch and experience a product. So that's my main reason for not shopping in those environments. However, I'm not saying that you will not find great products in those environments. And I have to give a shout out to Revlon because they have an incredible range of diverse shades, and I have been lucky enough to work with them in the past, and like some great formulas as well. So if that is where you need to shop, absolutely there are options. For me, I am very, very passionate about skin looking like skin. So when I'm shopping for foundations, both for my kit and for myself, I want it to look real. I think that if you like makeup and you like colorful things and you like glitter and you like all of that, which I do, even though you might not guess by my current makeup, I feel that having your skin look as natural as possible means you can get away with more of the fun stuff. So, like my goal is always for people to be like, oh my gosh, your skin is so beautiful, not, oh my gosh, your foundation looks so good. Like, I would like to be able to lie convincingly that I woke up like this, if at all possible. And I feel like a lot of women have that same goal. So I genuinely feel that finding your foundation match is for some people a little bit of a journey, trying different things. And for me, my recommendation is just to try and get a sample of whatever foundation you're wanting to try, and to also really think about what it is that you want your foundation to do for you before you go into the shop and before you go into a makeup counter. And I definitely also recommend a makeup counter. Is if you're struggling, especially, I recommend going to a makeup counter over just going to a Clicks or a Dis-Chem, because you're not going to get the same expertise, customer service on makeup specifically and on that brand specifically, whereas at a NARS or a MAC or a Fenty, you're going to get a trained consultant who is going to understand that this foundation is better for this type of skin versus this one, where you're not going to necessarily get that in a drugstore environment. But think about what you want your skin to look like. Think about how much coverage you think that you need. I often have customers or clients rather sit down and they say they want full coverage. And like, what does that mean to you? What does full coverage mean to you? Does full coverage mean that you don't mind if a little freckle shines through, but you just want your skin tone to be like even? Or is full coverage like wall to wall carpeting? I don't want to see anything, like it's nuanced language and everyone has their own interpretation of that. So really thinking about what you want your skin to look like. If you can find photographs to represent that, that's always helpful as well. I think understanding textures that we talk about when we are, talking about foundation is important. So matte, natural, natural satin, dewy, glowy. These are all like words that we use to describe foundations. When you use the word matte, it is quite literally the absence of shine. So the only 100% true matte foundations are powder foundations, because anything else will have
Right.
ingredients that make it a liquid. And so even the mattest of liquids will not be as matte as a powder ever. But yes, I think just really understanding what it is that you as a customer are looking for when it comes to a foundation is really, really important. And if you can find some pictures of that and go in to see a trained expert makeup consultant, I think it's going to take a lot of the like guesswork out of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love that. Absolutely. And so if we talk about we talk about makeup, beauty, and all that, I'm kind of linking it a bit to self-love and self-care. But is there any specific practice? I just love to, because again, we're like a self-care,
Yeah.
So is there any specific practice or moment in your day where you feel like makeup or skincare has become an act of self-compassion?
Yes, and I'm going to get super vulnerable now. I feel like and sometimes as someone that struggles with, ADHD and I work some crazy hours sometimes, there are times when I really, really, really don't feel like doing my skincare at night. And I have to like really show up for myself sometimes to do that small thing. And I've realized that I can make that easier for myself by having, so I have my full skincare routine for nighttime, and then I have like what I call my sort of like when when I really feel like I can't do it, I have like two things that are in droppers, so I can honestly just lie on my back and just drop and rub it on, and I don't have to do anything more than that. But that, if you've ever had executive dysfunction or you've ever just really, really struggled to do something, you'll understand. And so making it easier for me to show up for myself in that way is important. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Because you often don't think about it, right? Like you often don't think about, I mean, I'm dyslexic. I have a bit of ADHD as well. And it's like some things that you almost don't connect it, but it's actually like some executive function, like you said. And sometimes, as you know, of course, as you're adulting and you're self-aware, you understanding that, oh, it's because of this. That's why some days my brain can't just figure it out. My brain just cannot do it. It's not because I'm lazy or whatever, because you could be physically tired and still get some things done. But
Yeah.
understanding where you are, understanding and connecting, yes, I cannot do this, but I have another routine, which I always say you have to, everything in terms of self-care for me is always having an action in place.
Yeah.
Because we often talk about it, but we don't have a practical action in place. But having this self-compassion and saying, even those days when I don't feel like it, I have my 2-step. I might be
Yeah.
able to do 7-step on my regular day, but I have this 1-step, 2 steps, but it's only possible because you put it in place,
Yeah.
right? And I often talk about that. We often have to go beyond just saying it to doing it and putting an action plan in place. And I love that we can connect that to a bit of more self-compassion as well to ourselves. I didn't connect that, but that was actually a great one in terms of having that self-compassion and understanding and putting a plan in place. So thank you for that. I love that. I love that. We're running
And
out of time. Go
oh
ahead.
yeah, we are running out of time. Oh my goodness. I, I'm a chatty
No,
girl.
I'm chatty as well. You can tell I'm chatty as well. I'm quite chatty as well.
I mean, yeah, podcast host, that is a good career choice for someone who likes to chat. Um, I just wanted to touch on one other thing, if I may, before we wrap
Absolutely.
up. I
Absolutely.
know we didn't quite get here, but like I, as part of my, makeup journey and all of that, I purchased a glitter brand in the beginning of 2021 called Dream Sequins, and as of last year, we are available countrywide in all of the ARC stores, which was a huge milestone for
Oh,
us. And
congratulations. That's
thank you
amazing.
so much. As a female and queer owned business, it's very important to us to be supporting the community. And so we're also going to be at the Pride Market on the 1st of March this year, which is very, very exciting. So if your
Absolutely.
listeners are going to be
So
there,
tell us a little bit more about that in terms of, I know this is in Cape Town, right? This is
yes.
going to be in Cape Town. Tell us a bit about it. Do you, any kind of history behind it? You know, how long it's been going on, what to expect and stuff like that.
So Cape Town Pride has been going on for ages. I don't know the exact number of years, but every year they have a amazing parade to celebrate the community, the queer community, and we are also going to be. There's also like a really cute market, so you can come and buy goodies and support queer-owned businesses. And there's performances and just an amazing celebration of existence.
Absolutely.
So
And this is happening March 1st this year.
March 1st is the official event. There's some really cute like events leading up to that. So if
Mhm.
you go onto the Cape Town Pride Instagram, you'll be able to see those dates. There's other parties and other cute things happening, but otherwise come and play glitter with us.
Absolutely. And yours is called Dream Sequence, you said.
Yes, Dream Sequence.
Absolutely. We'll definitely watch out for that. As we wrap up, let's ask Brooke this. I'm going to ask you two quick questions. You know, what advice would you give any woman who feels invincible at this time, especially trying to reconnect with their beauty? What, the inner self, their beauty, their self-confidence, what advice will you give someone like that?
Someone who's struggling with confidence.
Correct. So struggling to reconnect with their
Oh,
beauty, when it comes to maybe self-confidence or whatever the case that they might be going through, what would you tell a woman who is struggling to reconnect with it, especially inner beauty?
I think, like you say, like we discussed, I think my light is turned off now as well. So the wheels are coming off. I think it's about consistency. It's like, they don't talk about yoga as like an exercise routine. They refer to it as a practice. And I've always loved that because I think that, you know, that's also what our self-care needs to be. It needs to be a practice, and it needs to be consistent as we can. But I think it also needs to be realistic. So if you're struggling to connect with whatever, part of your inner beauty um and self-care, maybe it's about picking something very small to do, that's just for yourself. And I also like it if those little small things are meditative in nature. So one of my favorite ones is cuticle oil. It's such a weird
I
feature,
do.
but
I love that as well. I actually do.
it's like you need to massage into every single, finger. And so you're taking a few minutes to just massage all 10 fingers. And, if you're really just focusing on doing that thing and you're present in that moment and you're doing that small, small thing for yourself, that is a good way to start. Another good way would be to find a find one element of makeup that makes you feel really good or really powerful. And two, if you have the means, go and buy yourself a little, treat version of that item. So if you're a red lip girly, go buy yourself a cute little new red lip and, let that be your simultaneous little treat and your little act of defiance, if you will. Or I don't know, make it a practice to every day tell another woman something that makes them feel good or empowers them, or make a little gratefulness journal. That's one of my favorite things to do when I'm having a very, very rough day. I just open my notes app and write down 3 things that I'm grateful for in that moment that I'm feeling so, frustrated or whatever it is that I'm feeling. But yeah, those are some options, I think.
Love that. I love that. And I love that you connected it with even mindfulness and meditation. And because just like you said, anything that you can do that you're focused on and really stay in that moment, that is mindfulness. That is, meditation, and having those little things just to kind of keep ourselves aligned and grounded and just bring that inner beauty back. I think that is very important. So thank you for that. So as we wrap up, my last question will be, which is just a fun one, I think. What's one beauty trend from your generation that you wish you could make it come back, or you wish it just go away?
Oh my goodness. So early 2000s was kind of like, I think I would say, my formative years from a beauty point of view. One of the trends that I think, like, so firstly, a lot of those trends are coming back at the moment, and some have been extremely traumatic to see. I think the one that I wish would go away, and is probably the one that I have the most PTSD over, is the skinny eyebrows.
Are they
God,
back? Are they back?
oh my goodness, yes, I'm seeing girls doing skinny eyebrows again. Please think about the long-term consequences, guys. Like, you don't even know the struggle to grow them back. Like, when you decide when that's out of fashion and fluffy brows come back, and then you're going to be stuck with, just make choices wisely. And then one of the things that I do think is so fun, that has been like coming back, has been like all of these sort of like kind of industrial, like gray undertoned like products. So in the late 90s to early 2000s, there were so many like gray and weird colored lip glosses that were like sparkly, and I love that. I think it's so fun from a makeup point of view, and I'm seeing a lot of it like showing up silver like eyelids, and it's a really fun trend, and it looks really cool on so many skin tones, and I'm very excited to see that coming back.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thank you so much, Rain. I can't believe it's an hour is pretty much over, but thank you so much for coming on and just sharing with us your passion, what makes you tick. If somebody wants to reach out to you, how can they do that?
So I'm very active on my Instagram. I try and make sure to answer all DMs and so on. So that's the best place that you can get hold of me, and it's at Rain Tauber.
Albert, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. We always say 3 things that we always do here is to encourage, educate, and equip women to prioritize themselves and thrive. And you've ticked all 3 boxes for us today. So thank you.
And then my leaving thought is just, down with the patriarchy. And I think this, like, women, it's our time to come into our power, and we can change the world if we do.
Absolutely. Yes, we can. Absolutely. And hopefully we'll see you March 1st. And I think we should be able to actually hear this next week so that people can catch it from March 1st. So looking forward to that. Thank you so much, Rain, again, for taking our time to come here on the She Self Care Collective podcast. We wish you all the best, and thank you.
Thank you for having me. It was so fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the She Self Care podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave a review to help others find us. Remember, self-care is a journey, not a destination, and you deserve every moment of it. Until next time, Keep shining and taking care of yourself, body, mind, and soul. You've got this.